Welcome back to another episode of Sacred Wildman. My name is Roy. Today I've got quite the interesting presentation for you. So I saw a reel on Instagram where it was a couple of men having a conversation on a podcast, and they were talking about the men who say the phrase, "Oh, she's the boss," or "she's the one in charge" when they refer to their wife. And this got me thinking, this is a dynamic that quite a lot of men experience today. And we don't have too many people talking about it. We kind of just take it at face value, like, oh, it's kind of funny, the guy who defers to his woman. But that pattern actually creates a lot of marriage tension and relational tension. And it's not serving the men and it's not serving the women. So in this presentation, I want to break down this mother complex. What happens when men essentially marry their own mothers? So let me take you through the outline for today. I'm going to dissect what men really mean, what they're actually saying when they say things like she's the boss, she's in charge. What is the mother complex? The consequences of not differentiating from one's mother, which means to separate and become your own distinct individual. A lot of men in these marriages, a lot of boys growing up today, don't ever completely separate from their mothers. There's still a psychological umbilical cord that keeps them connected. The kind of relationship problems you'll run into with women when you don't differentiate from your mother, when you don't resolve the mother complex. And why do you as a man choose these relationships? What is it that you're trying to resolve? What is your psyche, your unconscious mind trying to solve here? That's going to be really important. And then finally, some resources you can dig into to go on this journey. If by the end of this presentation, you realize, shoot, like I'm that guy. I'm married to my mother. I'm stuck in this mother complex, and all my history of relationships, this has been playing out. Here are some resources that you can dig into to begin to unravel that and bring yourself more into a state of differentiation and reclaiming your masculine essence and leadership. So let's dive in. I use the thumbnail for this video with Malcolm in the Middle. If any of you have watched that, it was a show I grew up watching quite a bit, and I always thought it was funny. It was funny, and of course, as a kid, you don't know any better. It's just for entertainment. But I can still recall that the father and the husband in the show, Hal, was very kind of like a klutz and very deferential to his wife, Lois. She was the one in charge. And so I think that thumbnail captures this perfectly. And when a man says something like, oh, my wife, she's the boss, she's the one in charge, it's an admission of his own powerlessness. Okay? He has no leadership in the relationship, and he's just a deferential lapdog to her. If you watch Malcolm in the Middle, you'll see that playing out with Hal. And characters like Hal, or you could even look at Homer in The Simpsons, there's this aspect of them deferring to their wife, telling their kids, listen to your mother. That's kind of this phrase. Maybe some of you watching grew up hearing your father say, kids, listen to your mother, right? Just listen to her. And he's like completely emotionally absent or just feeling helpless. He didn't know what to do. So he's like, well, let me just defer to her. I don't want to take on the responsibility. She says, how it goes, and I'll just follow her. And that will also play out when these men ask their woman, well, what do you think we should do, honey? And every single decision is deferred to her, from the big ones to even the small ones of, honey, what do you think we should eat? And she's like, oh, I don't know. I'm hungry. Like, you just pick something for us to eat. He's like, oh, I'll eat, whatever you want to eat. So what do you think we should eat? And if you talk to many of these women who have relationships where the men always defer to her, they just want to pull their hair out. It's like, why can't you just make a decision? I don't care if I don't agree with it or I don't like it, but at least stand behind your decision. Many of these men are afraid to do that. And this is a sign of an unresolved mother complex. Psychologically, this man still feels small, and the internalized mother is then projected outward onto a woman who is deified in the sense that she's larger than life. And this is something that I even thought of. There's this realm of, within pornography, people have their different fetishes, and apparently there are some men who have a fetish for like giant women, and it's usually in the realm of fantasy. Sometimes it's with real women, but sometimes it's just like fantasy characters, and there's this dynamic of a gigantic woman and a tiny little man. And I don't know if there's an exact one-to-one connection, but it's interesting to think about how, what is it about a giant deified woman that is so interesting to these men? What is it that their psyche is trying to resolve with these sexual fantasies? Just some food for thought. Now, what is the mother complex? It's a structure within the psyche, within your mind, that is composed of the emotions, memories, hopes, and fears regarding the image of the mother. And it's formed via the filters and meanings made about one's mother based on early childhood experiences. This can also happen as early as in the womb. They found that the mother's emotional state, the state of her nervous system, even the thoughts that she thinks about herself during pregnancy, will influence the pH of the amniotic fluid that the developing infant is bathing in. So if a mother is stressed during pregnancy and also has thoughts such as, am I going to be a good mother? I don't think I can do this. I'm going to probably be a horrible mother. I don't want to mess up my kid. What if I mess up my kid? And there's a lot of stress and tension. That infant will also absorb that, because at that point, there's no separation, no differentiation between the infant's nervous system and the mother's nervous system. They're intricately enmeshed, fused, and connected. Now, once the infant is born, right, and in this case, I'm just talking about the boys, right? Because this is about men who marry their mothers. This is about the issue that men experience with an unresolved mother complex. What happens is these developing boys, they will take on all of those patterns within the relationship that were modeled to him. So, for example, let's say you grew up with an intensely critical helicopter mother. That was the case for me. You will form a complex of women and of your mother as critical and smothering. Smothering being that you don't have any personal space. Your emotional real estate, psychological real estate, mental real estate, heck, even your body will feel like it is all ruled over by your mother. There are boys who talk about, and also many girls experience this with their mothers, the constant criticism, or just the mother always has something to say about their body. And so a lot of boys can grow up hearing things like, oh, how come you're not so, you should build some more muscle, or, you're looking a little bit chubby here. Like these little things that seem innocuous from the mother, but they're like these little seeds that get planted into their psyche, and it forms a complex. And so with the critical helicopter mother, that boy gets a sense, and this was very much my experience growing up, gets a sense that like he has no dominion over his life. He is at the mercy of his mother's opinions, moods, and emotions. And that creates this sense of oppression, that in relation to his mother and in relationship to women, he is always at the mercy of their opinions, of their perspectives. So he better get real good at reading what women want. Another complex could be, let's say your mother was very melancholic, sad, depressed, always moody, in a kind of victim mentality. Oh, oh, woe is me, and I could never be good enough, and gosh, I'm not even a good enough mother. You deserve so much better. Like some of these feelings and attitudes. A boy who grows up with this sort of mother will have this sense that, all right, my mother and women are people I need to take care of emotionally. And so he assumes the role of an emotional caretaker, being that if mom is unhappy, it's my job to fix that. If mom is happy, all right, I'm doing good. If mom has complaints, mom is upset, then I need to do something about it. And so he shoehorns himself into this very limited role of I am the emotional caretaker. I must do everything in my power to make sure mom is okay. Then they repeat this in their romantic relationships because that's a complex. That complex is the blueprint. It's the blueprint that he looks at and says, okay, so this is how I'm supposed to relate with women. This is how I should view myself. This is how I should view women. So, all right, let's copy and paste this. Or let's run this as a software program in order to navigate my way in the world. That's the job of the subconscious mind. It's like, all right, what blueprint we have, let's go on that. Because the subconscious mind is just about what can we do to make sure you navigate the world in a way in which it makes the most sense and so that you're not in danger so you can survive. So now we've established what the mother complex is. It's this blueprint based on these early childhood experiences, the relational dynamics the boy has with the mother that then become his guide in all other relationships with women. Differentiation. This is where the boy must separate from the mother. And boys will naturally seek to do this. I want all of you to think about your teenage years, or if you are a teenager right now, think about how things are right now. Have you experienced that sense of rebellion towards your mother and a sense of even kind of making yourself troublesome, disgusting, unwanted to your mother? This is something that I first read in the book Iron John by Robert Bly, which I'll show you again at the end as a resource. But he was describing how there's this pattern where a lot of teenage boys, they wear baggy clothes, they don't really shower that much, so they're smelly, and they'll curse, they'll swear, and essentially they unconsciously make themselves so troublesome and disgusting as though that creates the distance. Like that's the shield that protects them from the mother's influence anymore. And I was thinking to my own teen years, I was like, I did do that. I suddenly started to swear more, yell at my mom, say that, she sucked, like all these different behaviors to try to create distance, to push her away and create my own differentiation of like, okay, I am me and she is her. She does not dictate my thoughts and emotions anymore. All of this was unconscious. So boys naturally seek to do this. And this is where the psyche of the boy is seeking to create a clear border between mother and self. This used to be a ritualized event back when in tribes there were rites of passage or initiation that the whole village was involved in. I first heard this described in some indigenous cultures in Papua New Guinea, where at a certain age, the men of the village came and they stole the boys away from the mothers. And it was somewhere, in the dead of night that they did this. The mothers of the village were all in on this. Like they knew that it was going to happen because it was a ritual. And so their job was to do a good job of acting terrified, acting sad and horrified, like, no, don't take away my dear boy. Please bring him back. But of course, they would allow the men to take the boys away. And then when the men took the boys away, they would take them through some challenges, out in the wilderness, survival, and then they would teach them the ways of men. And then once they came back to the village, the boys were different. There was a ritualized event where their psyche could experience a death and then a rebirth, death of the boy psychology and a rebirth into man psychology. And then the mothers would continue to play in this role where once the boys came back, they would even pretend a little bit to not recognize, like, you look a lot like my son, but you're different, something. And it was all to encourage this process of differentiation, which is psychological, also biological. And there's this beautiful quality to these rites of passage that let the boys know, I've gone through something. I've gone through a significant event, and I'm no longer this little boy anymore. I must leave the nest and warmth of the mother's arms. We don't really have that today in modern society. And so it makes sense that so many boys and men never fully differentiate. And that's why we have all these problems of immature boy psychology or adult men having trouble in their relationships and marriage. There's this great quote by Guy Corneau in the book Absent Fathers, Lost Sons, where he says, "The pitched battles that often take place between teenage boys and their mothers are signs that the sons are trying in every possible way to escape from maternal domination, trying to wrestle their bodies away from their mothers and trying to prove themselves as men." It's wired into our biology and our psychology as men. So if the fathers aren't there to do it anymore, if the village doesn't have a ritual around it anymore, the boys are going to do their best to try to figure it out the only way they know how, on their own. Let's take a look at some of the consequences of not differentiating from the mother. There'll be a lack of sense of self, confusion without someone else telling them what to do. This is where a lot of men, when they get into relationships with women, it's not so much that he really sees the woman and wants to be in a committed relationship, but it's a unconscious desire to have the mother figure, a feminine figure, to give him a sense of identity and tell me what to do. That's where at the beginning, when I mentioned the man is deferring to his woman, what do you think we should do, honey? Like, kids, listen to your mother, or getting nagged by her. This is that unconscious desire for the mother to still be in his life. Tell me what to do. Give me a sense of self, because without you, I don't know who I am. Right? That's that fused and mesh relationship. Emotional caretaking, another big consequence. Thinking that it is his job to make sure mother and women feel happy. Right? What can I do to make you happy? And he doesn't ever think, well, women also have their own responsibility to create their own happiness. Like, his sole purpose is not to make her happy, because in the end, you can't ever fully 100% make a woman happy. She will have her own mood swings. She will have things that she experiences in life where it has nothing to do with you. Right? So you don't have to make her happy. Your job is not to control her emotional state or to fix it. It's to relate to her. And if you don't differentiate from the mother complex, then you'll be stuck in that emotional caretaking role. The puer aeternus, also known as the eternal child in Latin. This was a term coined by Carl Jung. You might also know it as the Peter Pan syndrome. When you do not differentiate from the mother, you do not cross that threshold from boy psychology into man psychology. And so part of being in boy psychology, still stuck there, is living in the realm of fantasy. So for a lot of these men, they live in the realm of fantasy. The fantasy that his woman, his wife, is still his mother, who he needs somebody to tell him what to do. He gets his playtime, whether that's video games, watching sports, or whatever, and then his wife has to nag him, right? Just like mirroring the mother nagging the boy. Have you done your homework? Have you cleaned your room? Or he puts himself into the realm of fantasy of thinking and imagining, like, accomplishing great things, but he never follows through. Like, things like, oh, I'm gonna finally finish that project that I've been working on that's been in the garage, but I just haven't had the time. Like, he fantasizes about these things, but there's no follow through. These men will also have a sense that I can't make it in the world. When you don't differentiate from the mother, the sense that you'll get is, I can't do it on my own. Okay? If you look at a young boy who is rightfully still connected to his mother, because he's a young boy, he's trying to figure out his way in the world. And at that point, his job is just to be a boy. Mom's job is to be the mother, nurture and care for him. For that young boy, whenever he is in a situation where there's unknown, uncertainty, or danger, you'll notice that the boys turn their heads to look back towards mom. Like, is it okay? Am I okay to continue moving in this way? Do you approve? Am I safe? And that is how he gets his sense of, oh, okay, I'm all right. I'm okay. But when you don't differentiate from the mother, it's still stuck in that boy psychology, there is still an attachment within the psyche to, I need the external figure. I need the mother. I need a woman to tell me it's okay. And as long as that's there, a man will never tap into his own masculine essence and certainty to say, whatever happens, I'll figure it out. Right? Doesn't mean it'll always go the way I want. Doesn't even mean it'll feel good. But I have the capacity within myself to figure it out. And I know how to handle and process my own emotions. A man who has not differentiated doesn't know how to contact that aspect within himself. And so he'll feel like, I can't make it in the world. I don't know how to do it. I don't know what my own strength is like. These men will also develop a lot of repressed rage and resentment because of that emotional fusion and that failure to differentiate. There's an understanding within his own psyche of, I haven't fully stepped into my identity as a man. I'm not actually a man yet. I'm still a boy. And that harbors a whole bunch of resentment and rage, and also rage towards himself, but also rage towards the mother, towards women. He'll form an addiction to unhealthy coping mechanisms. So that addiction is based off of a lot of that repressed rage and resentment. That energy of rage and resentment has to go somewhere. It won't just disappear and evaporate on its own. It needs to experience a sense of completion and resolution. And oftentimes the way that men try to do this unconsciously is through addictions, something to fill the void, something to replay these old emotional patterns and loops to try to resolve them. He'll have an inability to form healthy relationships with women. And he'll also be very distrustful towards men, because if a man is not separated from his mother, is not psychologically differentiated, then he is still stuck in the prison of the mother complex. Oftentimes, these men, just in the statement, she's the boss, she's the one in charge, and hear how there's an outsourcing to women, the mother, the feminine, for his well-being. So there's more, not necessarily respect, but there's more of an emotional tie to women, the feminine, to the mother. And as for men, there's a complete absence of connection. He's looking more towards women and the mother for guidance. Oftentimes, these men grew up with fathers who are very emotionally absent or was physically absent. So his only blueprint for relationships and connection and guidance, women, his mother. And so there's distrust towards the men and overinvestment in trust, connection with women. Guy Corneau says, as long as a man is not liberated from his mother, he cannot love another woman. His libido, his vital force, remains imprisoned in his mother complex. This is another big consequence when you don't differentiate from the mother, that you never learn how to form a truly loving relationship with another woman. Because the mother complex, the shadow of the mother complex, is in the way. And this was probably one of my biggest issues when I had not resolved my mother complex. Was I didn't see other women. I could only see the reflection of my own unresolved issues through these women. At the time I thought, oh no, I love and adore these women. But that was a false projection, which I'll get into a few slides later. So, what kind of relationship issues will you encounter with women when you don't differentiate from your mother, when you don't resolve the mother complex? You'll be in a position of subservience, which is camouflage underneath agreeableness, which is hiding underneath it resentment and rage. This happens for a lot of nice guys, right? You've probably heard the trope nice guys so many times now. And nice guys are getting a lot of shit on the internet. Some of it, makes sense, is based. Some of it is almost based in a desire to hate on something, to project onto the nice guy. I don't think that's very helpful. But the piece that is true for the nice guy is there's a lot of resentment and rage because there's this desire to try to be enough. The nice guy's deepest fear is that he's not enough. Something about me is fundamentally wrong. And because that is my core belief, I need to fight and oppose and resist that. And in order to oppose and resist that, I need to do everything in my power to offset that by doing actions and behaviors that make me not that way, that hopefully will make me enough, and then I can finally have peace. That loop of beliefs, behaviors, it hides so much resentment and rage. Resentment and rage that he is somehow not enough and never received the things he needed. But that resentment and rage is very difficult for the ego, right? The desire to please, the front-facing persona says, no, I need the world, I need women to see me as good and pleasant and nice. The resentment and rage cannot be seen by that. It's seen as intolerable. So what happens is he splits that off into the shadows of his unconscious, and he tries his hardest to be agreeable and docile, very pleasant. And that is something that becomes quite dangerous in a relationship because these men become a pressure cooker. He's trying to be nice, agreeable, go above and beyond to prove himself. Meanwhile, underneath in the shadows, there's all this resentment and rage. Like, I deserve all this. I've been good enough. I'm not like those other douchebags. It leads to a lot of pressure within. And when that explodes, because again, this energy must go somewhere. It cannot be repressed. It comes out diagonally. I've worked with some men who have had this nice guy syndrome, and they said they were horrified when they exploded in rage towards their woman. And that's when she decided, I'm done. I'm leaving this. I do not feel safe. And that catapults these men into more panic of, oh my gosh, like, I don't know where that came from. That's totally not me. Please forgive me. Please take me back. And then they try again, just as hard, but, 10 times more, 100 times more to be agreeable, polite, to atone for their sins before the cycle then repeats. So this is a tremendous issue. Another relationship issue, these men will be sexually unfulfilled, dissatisfied, or deviant because they're afraid to ask for what they want. They're afraid to speak to their desires. And so what they once again do is defer to her. Like, if she wants this, then I'll go with that. But if she doesn't want it, then, I will just back myself up and then try to get my needs met in a different way. And this is where a lot of these men then go into deviance, which is pornography, sex workers, stuff done in the night in the shadows, because again, the energy needs to go somewhere, right? It can't be repressed. So that's where they go to find a release, to blow off some steam. They can't have that direct conversation with their woman. Incessant conflict and nagging. Many times these men will put themselves in positions in relationships with women where they will be nagged. And part of this, I'll take it back. I'll bring it up again once we get to the last bullet point here. But part of this is he subconsciously desires a woman to nag him. These men can have a hard turn towards red pill or manosphere ideology, which most of what it is on the internet now is just bashing and hating on women because they couldn't get their needs met. They didn't know how to deal with the resentment and rage in a conscious way. They never claimed their empowerment as men. They didn't resolve the mother complex and move into man psychology. So what happens? They turn towards blame. What does a boy do? He blames. Right? Someone else is at fault for this. These men will also give in order to get back. This is also known as a covert contract. He'll enter into a relationship with a woman. He never says this up front. It's in the back of his mind. Right? I'm a good boy. I behave. I'm nice. I do all the right things. And because I have, right, I've done a good job on my report card. I've gotten all my A pluses. Then you now owe me something. Right? And he doesn't say it outright, but there's this expectation. There's this mind reading. Okay, I've done all these things, so she should give me the things I want. She should give me what I want sexually, emotionally, physically, what have you. And then when they don't get it, because they never voiced directly what they want or their intentions, then they feel entitled. And then the resentment and rage come in. So this immature boy psychology, right? It's looking for a mommy to take care of him. And this can often show up as nagging, because what happens with nagging is, think about that, teen boy who has his mother always on his back. Have you done your homework? Have you cleaned your room? Have you done this? Why can't you do this? That's a lot of nagging. It's not a woman to man relationship. It's a mother to a son relationship. That's the boy psychology. And these men, because they haven't resolved that mother complex, they're still looking for an external woman to fulfill that role in their life. It's like a missing chess piece. They're like, oh, I need this chess piece in my life in order for me to kind of continue to resolve this thing that feels unresolved within myself. They don't like the nagging, but they also can't live without it. And I'll get deeper into why that is. So why do men choose these relationships? Right? It's not a conscious decision. No man is thinking, I would like to marry a woman or be in a relationship with a woman who reminds me of my mother so I can solve all these unresolved things within my psyche. That's not a conscious thought. No man has ever consciously thought that. So it's unconscious. It's driven by the unresolved conflicts within his psyche. These subconscious programs are based on an identity that was formed to survive in a specific context within childhood. So beliefs about he's not enough, or I've done something wrong, I must be the emotional caretaker, women's happiness is my responsibility. Those were beliefs, programs, based on a specific context in childhood. So if the mother was the critical helicopter mom, if the mother was the melancholic, depressed mom, so many different faces and expressions of the mother that can compose the mother complex. The boy's developing psyche, outside of his conscious awareness, will form a set of programs based on this identity, this belief about himself that he has viewed his interactions with his mothers through. So there's like a filter or perception that he sees these interactions through, and then the developing psyche puts together a structure. Like, okay, this is my way to navigate relationship with my mom, and by extension, other women, and then the rest of the world. Okay, this is the program we need to run to make sure we're okay and that we don't get abandoned. That's one of the deepest fears, is that if I don't do these things, if I don't make mom happy, I will be abandoned. And if mom is upset, that is equivalent to being abandoned, because if mom is upset, then she won't want to be near me. If she won't want to be near me, then I won't be fed, I won't be loved, and I need that for my survival. So these are the subconscious programs that are operating in the background outside of conscious awareness. And as the saying by Carl Jung goes, until you make the conscious, or until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So think about the trajectory and history of relationships you have had as a man. Have there ever been moments where you thought to yourself, God, I must be cursed or something, that I, of all people, just can't get a relationship to work? It just couldn't work for me. And it seems like you've been cursed and fated to suffer in this way. Not the case at all. That is a sign that your unconscious is trying to bring something into awareness for you. And until you make that conscious, right, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Ultimately, this is all in service for you. Your psyche is seeking to become whole, right? In our incarnation as humans on this earth, it is not just random and meaningless. There is something to our existence where the psyche wants to evolve, grow, expand, know more of itself, not by like adding things, like, oh, I need to add more so that I can finally be enough and a good person. But it's to realize, awaken to wholeness. So your psyche is seeking to become whole. You are seeking to become whole and awaken to your wholeness. But this can only happen through one method, because when we come into this world, there's a lot of stuff that we forget. If you want to go into the deeper spiritual side of things, you'll hear people refer to this as, we pass through a veil of amnesia when we incarnate on this earth, and much of our task is to remember our true essence. And in order to remember our true essence, we need to strip away and unbecome, subtract all of the false programs and false selves that we are conditioned into here on earth. So what is this one method to become whole? What is this one method your psyche uses to become whole? I'll share that with you in just 2 more slides, so stick with me. There's a quote by Guy Corneau again, where he talks about one of his clients named Paul. And he said, Paul's adult behavior was a repressed form of protest against his mother. It expressed his anger at having been neglected. He was looking constantly for someone who would love him unconditionally. He refused to admit that his childhood was over, that no one now owed him that kind of love. At the same time, he felt guilty about imposing himself on others through extreme behaviors. He therefore tried to gain forgiveness by showing his extreme willingness to help others. So sit with that one for a moment. Did anything in there just hit you as a man? Like, damn, I totally see myself in that. When I first read it, that's how it hit me. And this is a deep clue into why men choose these relationships, why you are choosing these relationships with women where you are the boy and she is like the mother. Remember what I said earlier, that your psyche is seeking to become whole. And in order to become whole, what needs to be stripped away is all the falsehoods. So those subconscious programs that are running in the background, all the unfinished business, what was not resolved with the mother, is seeking a sense of completion. So these relationships serve an important function in that end. And one more here from Guy Corneau. He becomes a victim of repetition, looking to women reminiscent of his mother for the things he never got from her, as if he would make up for some terrible emotional wound. Is it starting to sink in? Is it starting to get closer? Oh, okay, I think I'm beginning to get why men choose these relationships. There's a desire for completion and resolution. Okay. So it's kind of a brilliant function of the psyche. The psyche's like, I want to become whole and actualized as my individual person, my individual being. In order to do that, I sense that there's some unfinished business that I need to reconcile. But how do I know it's there? Well, you don't know it's there because it's in the unconscious. So how do you make the unconscious conscious? This is that one method. Projection. And you've likely heard about this through a whole bunch of pop psychology nowadays. People say, "Oh, you're projecting on me," and I think it fails to really hit on the depth of this mechanism, because most of the time when people say, "Oh, you're projecting," it's slung around more as an insult, like, "Oh, you did something that I don't like." And there's a much more empowering way to use projection, because you can't not project. That outside of your conscious control for the most part. As you become more conscious, awakened, and aware, you'll notice when the projection is happening. But again, it's not like you could stop it before it happened. You can only become aware of the projection. And then, like Carl Jung said, kind of the greatest work that you can do is to withdraw your projections, look at them, and then see what you can do with those projections so you can integrate the thing that you've been trying to put out there that has been unconscious within you. So it's a powerful tool if you use it consciously. Now, in this image, you see there's the mirror, the silhouette of a woman, and then this man with his unconscious desires and fears. Why are they unconscious? Because he's not aware of them in his waking life. He's not aware of these things because he's not consciously thinking about them. They're operating on the level of his unconscious mind. So projection is then how the psyche makes the unconscious conscious by strong reactions or emotions to things in the external. This is why you don't ever really see anybody else. You don't really ever relate to anybody else. You relate to your own projections that you see mirrored through them. Only after you withdraw these projections, you integrate them and you see what it's trying to communicate to you, the unresolved business, unfinished business, unresolved conflicts within your psyche. When you resolve that, that is when you truly see the person in front of you. You're interacting with another woman, not a mirror of what is within your own psyche. So this is what happens. We bring our deepest desires and deepest fears to a woman. We project that onto her. Some of the deepest fears: I don't want to be abandoned. I don't want to be seen as not enough. And so the desire is to have the opposite experience that we had with our mother. I do want to be enough. I want to be loved, finally. So there's so much psychological, emotional real estate invested into, how do I make myself good enough this time? How do I prove myself to this woman? How do I be the good enough boy now so that finally an external female figure can say, yes, you've done a good job. You're a good boy. I love you. And then we think that would give us a sense of, I can finally rest. I can finally relax. That's not how it happens. No external person will give that to us, because it isn't the external person who needs to fix that for us or needs to mold themselves to our liking. The external person is simply a mirror for us to become aware. And once we become aware, we withdraw those projections, see those desires, see those fears, and then through a process of inner work that you can do with a therapist, coach, group therapy, psychedelics, there's many different ways you can go about it. But through a conscious intention to work with those projections, the unresolved conflicts within psyche, we then integrate it into the whole. We dissolve the falsehoods that were there. We dissolve the distortions that were there. And then we can see things more clearly, which for a lot of men, it's simply saying, oh, my mom had her own issues that she couldn't resolve. And so she kind of projected those onto me. And then I took those on because I love her and well, heck, we're so deeply connected. I didn't know any better as a kid. And when they can see those events in their life from a new angle, a new perspective, what happens is the mind has a completely new experience of those things, those events. And with that comes a new meaning. And with a new meaning comes a new understanding of himself. And with a new understanding of himself, the old identity dissolves and a new one is born. And the new one is simply the true self that gets to emerge from the falsehood it was kind of encased and trapped in. And then you can just relate to women from a place of clarity, truth. You fully see her because you fully see yourself. And that's when the nature of your relationships shifts. There's so much more joy, ease, fun, playfulness, and you can navigate conflict with so much more wisdom. Now, I said I'd offer you some resources. So if you've been listening to this, watching this, and you've thought to yourself, yeah, I got some work to do. You brought to my awareness some things that I've kind of been aware of every now and then, but I couldn't ever really put language to, and now I can't not see it. These are some wonderful books that you can use on your journey to integrate, to resolve the unfinished business, the unresolved conflicts within your psyche, so you can break out of that mother complex. Iron John by Robert Bly, To Be a Man by Robert Augustus Masters, Silently Seduced by Kenneth Adams. That one, many times I had to put that book down, like, damn, this is hitting too close to home. So I imagine many of you, when reading that, will experience the same. And then Breaking the Mother-Son Dynamic by John Lee. So these are 4 wonderful books that you can take on your journey of resolving the mother complex so that you can have a loving and fulfilling relationship with a woman without all that baggage. And you can relate to your mother from a much more easeful, enlightened space. There's less of that tension and conflict than you used to have with her. And lastly, if you're a man who has deferred to your woman as the boss and you recognize you've been building resentment, you want to resolve your mother complex so you can have a healthy relationship with her and also with other women. And you're ready to reclaim masculine leadership and responsibility, which means no more victimhood, no more of that boy psychology that blames the external woman for your woes and why relationships haven't worked out. You recognize, I'm the common denominator. It's time to take personal responsibility and accountability, and I'm going to figure this out. And you're willing to invest the time, money, and energy into this journey. Then book a call via the link in my description, or you can scan this QR code. Love to chat with you on a brief call just to get a better understanding of what you've been experiencing and what you're looking to accomplish. In my one-on-one coaching program with men, much of what I do is about subconscious reprogramming, breaking down by first identifying the programs that have been operating outside of his conscious awareness, these recurring themes in life, money, work, relationships, wherever it is, there's been struggle. So for the man who recognizes, hey, I've had this problem with my woman, this deferring to her to leadership, this unresolved mother complex, that's what we will get done, is to identify where those subconscious programs have been operating for you, where they originate. And once we reprogram them and rewrite them, then you will experience a completely different relationship within yourself and then also to women. So if that's of interest, book a call on the link in the description or scan the QR code, and I look forward to chatting with you. That's all for today's presentation. If you have any comments or questions, I would love to hear them. Drop a comment below. Was there something in this presentation that stuck out to you that you would like me to expand on more? I would be happy to do so in a future video. That's all for now. and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.